Admiral Kethavar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the endless void of space through the massive viewing window. For 300 years he had served the Vorthak Empire. In all that time, nothing had ever surprised him. The Empire ruled over 47 different species across thousands of star systems. Their military was the strongest in the galaxy. Their technology was the most advanced. Their rule was absolute. Today, something impossible happened. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, his voice shaking. "We have a problem." Kethavar turned his four eyes toward the younger Vorthak. The officer's blue skin had turned pale, almost white. His hands trembled as he worked at his control panel. "What kind of problem?" Kethavar asked. "There's a ship, sir. A ship that shouldn't be here." The Admiral walked over to the officer's station. On the screen he saw a small dot moving through space. It was heading straight for Zephyria Prime, the capital world of the Empire. The most protected planet in the galaxy. How did it get past our outer defenses? Kethavar demanded. "That's just it, sir. It didn't trigger any alarms. Our sensors show it just appeared. One moment the space was empty, the next moment it was there." Kethavar felt a cold chill run down his spine. Nothing could bypass their defense systems. They had hundreds of automated stations scanning every inch of space around the capital system. Invisible force fields blocked all known forms of travel. Even their own ships needed special codes to enter safely. "What kind of ship is it?" he asked. The officer worked frantically at his controls. "Unknown design, sir. It's not in any of our databases. The energy readings are strange, very strange. Show me." The main screen changed to show a closer view of the mysterious ship. Kethavar had seen thousands of different spacecraft in his long career. He knew the designs of every major species in the galaxy. This ship looked like nothing he had ever seen before. It was dark gray, almost black. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The shape was wrong, too. Most ships were built for speed and efficiency. This one looked like it was built for war. Heavy armor covered every surface. Weapon ports dotted the hull like angry eyes. It moved through space with the confidence of a predator. "Hail them," Kethavar ordered. The communications officer sent out the standard Imperial challenge. All ships entering Imperial space had to identify themselves and state their business. Most aliens trembled when they heard the might of the Empire speaking to them. The response came back immediately. A clear, calm voice spoke in perfect Imperial standard. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UEF Retribution. I come bearing humanity's response to your ultimatum." Silence filled the bridge. Kethavar stared at the screen, trying to process what he had just heard. "Humanity?" he finally asked. "What is humanity?" His intelligence officer, Commander Yextal, pulled up files on his workstation. After a few moments, he shook his head. "Nothing in our records, Admiral. No species called humanity. No mention of anything called UEF." Kethavar thought hard. 3 months ago, the Empire had sent expansion fleets to several systems on the outer rim of the galaxy. Standard procedure. They would arrive at each new world, scan for valuable resources, and demand immediate surrender. Species that surrendered quickly were allowed to keep their lives as slaves. Those that resisted were destroyed. "Commander, check the expansion reports from the outer rim. Specifically, any mentions of ultimatums." Yextal's fingers flew over his controls. "Here, sir." Fleet Group 7 sent a standard subjugation demand to a planet called Earth. Small blue world, third planet from a yellow star. The report says it has a single intelligent species, primitive technology. No threat to the Empire. When was this report filed? 73 days ago, sir. Kethavar felt that cold chill again. The outer rim was thousands of light years away from the capital. Even with the Empire's fastest ships, the journey took at least 6 months. How had this human ship traveled such a distance in less than 3 months? "Admiral?" the sensor officer interrupted. "I'm getting more detailed scans of the alien ship." "The readings don't make sense." "Explain." "The mass readings are all wrong, sir. The ship appears to be much heavier than its size indicates. And there are energy signatures I've never seen before. The computer can't identify the power source." Kethavar studied the image of the human ship again. Now that he looked closer, he could see scorch marks on the hull. Battle damage. This ship had been in fights before. Many fights from the look of it. "How many life forms aboard?" he asked. "Hard to tell, sir. Their hull seems to block our deep scans, but I estimate between 300 and 400. A crew of 400 on a ship that size." Kethavar was amazed. "It must be crowded beyond belief. Or they build their ships very differently than we do," Yextal suggested. The communication channel crackled to life again. Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge once more. Imperial fleet, I request permission to approach your capital world. I have a message for your Emperor that requires personal delivery. Kethvar almost laughed. The audacity was incredible. This unknown alien from an unknown species was requesting an audience with Emperor Thaingok himself. The Emperor who ruled over countless worlds and trillions of subjects. Admiral, Yextal whispered. What should we do? Kethvar thought carefully. He could destroy the human ship right now. His flagship alone had enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. But something stopped him. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the calm confidence in the human captain's voice. Or maybe it was the uncomfortable feeling that this ship was more dangerous than it appeared. Send word to the Emperor, he decided. Tell him we have a situation that requires his personal attention. A representative from a species called humanity wishes to respond to our ultimatum. Should we escort the alien ship to the capital? The communications officer asked. Yes, but send a full battle group. 12 heavy cruisers should be enough to handle one small ship. As Kethvar gave his orders, he couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had just changed. For 3,000 years, the Empire had expanded without serious resistance. They had never encountered a species that could challenge their might. Looking at the dark shape of the human ship on his screen, Admiral Kethvar wondered if that was about to change. The UEF Retribution waited patiently in space, its weapons powered down but ready. Captain Chen sat in her command chair, watching the Imperial fleet scramble to respond to her presence. She had delivered her message. Now it was time to see how the Vorthak Empire would react to humanity's answer. In the distance, more Imperial ships were moving to intercept her vessel. Chen smiled grimly. They had no idea what they were dealing with. Soon they would learn why challenging humanity was a mistake that entire civilizations came to regret. Emperor Thaingok sat on his golden throne reading the report from Admiral Kethvar. The throne room was massive, larger than most starships. Pillars of black stone reached up toward a ceiling covered in stars. Guards in power armor stood at attention along the walls. The Emperor himself was 7 feet tall with dark blue skin and 6 arms. Each arm wore rings of office that sparkled with rare gems. The report made no sense to him. Humanity, he said aloud, testing the word. Never heard of them. His chief advisor, High Chancellor Vorthek, bowed low. My lord, our intelligence services have found no record of this species. They appear to be from the Outer Rim territories, and they dare to refuse our ultimatum? The Emperor's voice grew louder. No species has ever refused the might of the Empire. What makes these humans think they are special? Perhaps they do not understand our power, my lord. Most primitive species surrender immediately once they see our fleets. Emperor Thaingok stood up from his throne. His 6 arms gestured angrily. Then we will show them. Send a battle group to escort this lone ship to the capital. 12 heavy cruisers should be more than enough to demonstrate Imperial might. When these humans see our power, they will beg for mercy. What if they refuse to come peacefully? Vorthek asked. Then we destroy them and send their wreckage back to their homeworld as a warning. 2 hours later, 12 massive Vorthak warships surrounded the human vessel. Each Imperial cruiser was 3 times larger than the Retribution. Their weapons could level cities. Their shields could stop asteroid impacts. Together, they represented enough firepower to conquer most star systems. Captain Chen watched the Imperial ships take formation around her vessel. She stood in the center of her bridge, a compact woman with short black hair and steel-gray eyes. Her uniform was simple and practical, nothing like the elaborate dress of Imperial officers. They're trying to intimidate us, her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, observed. Of course they are, Chen replied calmly. It's probably worked for them before. Orders, Captain? Power down all weapons. Let them think we're complying. Send a message accepting their escort. The journey to Zephyria Prime took 6 hours. During that time, the Vorthak officers studied the human ship carefully. What they found disturbed them. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship reviewing the scan results. Commander Yextal worked beside him, his expression growing more worried by the hour. The mass readings are definitely wrong, Yextal reported. This ship is much denser than it should be. Either they're using materials we don't understand, or they're carrying much more equipment than seems possible. What about their engines? Kethvar asked. That's another mystery, sir. Our sensors show no signs of FTL stress on their hull. Ships that travel through hyperspace always show microscopic damage from the dimensional shear. This ship shows none. How is that possible? Either their technology is far more advanced than ours, or they traveled here using a method we don't understand. Kethvar studied the human ship through his viewing window. It looked small and helpless, surrounded by the Imperial battle group. But appearances could be deceiving. What about their weapons? He asked. Powered down as requested. But Admiral... Yextel hesitated. The weapon signatures I detected earlier were unlike anything in our databases. The energy patterns suggest technology that operates on completely different principles than our own. Different how? Our weapons work by projecting energy or launching projectiles. Theirs seem to manipulate space itself. Kethavar felt that familiar cold chill. Are you saying they have weapons that can alter reality? I don't know, sir. The readings are too strange to analyze properly. On the human ship, Captain Chen was having her own conversation with her crew. How long until we reach their capital? She asked. 4 hours, Captain, her navigator replied. Any sign they're scanning us? Constantly, Chief Engineer Park answered. Their sensors are quite good. Not as advanced as ours, but they're learning things they probably don't want to know. Chen smiled grimly. Such as? They're starting to realize we traveled here faster than should be possible. They're also detecting mass readings that don't match our apparent size, and I think they're beginning to understand that our weapons aren't like theirs. Good. Let them wonder, how are our special modifications holding up? All systems green, Captain. The gravity plating is functioning normally. Weapons are ready for activation on your command, and the dimensional drive is fully charged. Chen nodded. The dimensional drive was humanity's greatest secret. While other species traveled through hyperspace, humans had learned to fold space itself. It allowed them to travel vast distances almost instantly. More importantly, it gave their weapons the ability to ignore most known defenses. Any word from Earth? She asked. Last communication was 2 days ago, the communications officer reported. Admiral Thompson sends his regards and reminds you that the fate of our species rests on your shoulders. No pressure at all, Chen muttered. As the Imperial escort fleet approached Zephyria Prime, Captain Chen prepared for the most important diplomatic mission in human history. Through her viewing window, she could see the Vorthak capital world growing larger. It was a beautiful planet, covered in gleaming cities and orbital stations. Millions of ships moved through space around it like insects around a hive. She also saw the defensive installations. Hundreds of battle stations surrounded the planet. Energy shields shimmered in space, creating layers of protection. Patrol fleets moved in perfect formation, ready to respond to any threat. It was the most heavily defended location Chen had ever seen. Under normal circumstances, it would take a fleet of thousands to even approach this world. But Chen wasn't planning a normal attack. If negotiations failed, she had other options. Captain, Rodriguez called out, we're receiving a transmission from the Imperial flagship. Put it through. Admiral Kethvar's image appeared on the main screen. The alien officer looked nervous despite his attempt to appear stern. Captain Chen, he said, you will be escorted to the Imperial Palace on Zephyria Prime. Emperor Thaingok has agreed to hear your message. You will bring no more than 5 companions. Any hostile action will result in immediate destruction. Chen looked directly into the Admiral's 4 eyes. Understood, Admiral. But I should warn you about something. What? Humanity doesn't make idle threats. When we say something, we mean it. I hope your Emperor understands this. The transmission ended. Admiral Kethvar stared at the blank screen, wondering what the human captain meant by her warning. As the fleet entered orbit around Zephyria Prime, Captain Chen gathered her diplomatic team. She chose her officers carefully. Rodriguez for tactical advice, Park for technical expertise, Dr. Wilson for xenobiology knowledge, and 2 Marines for security. But her most important companion was the small device she carried in her pocket. If negotiations failed, that device would signal the next phase of humanity's plan. Looking out at the Imperial capital world, Chen hoped it wouldn't come to that. But she was prepared for any outcome. After all, she was human, and humans always had a backup plan. The Imperial throne room was designed to intimidate. Captain Chen walked down the long pathway between rows of armored guards, her small diplomatic team behind her. The ceiling stretched up into darkness, decorated with the conquered banners of 47 different species. Each banner represented a world that had fallen to Imperial might. Emperor Thaingok watched the humans approach his throne. He had expected them to show fear, to be overwhelmed by the display of power around them. Instead, the human captain walked with the steady confidence of a predator. Her eyes swept the room, taking in every detail, cataloging potential threats and escape routes. Behind the Emperor stood his court. High Chancellor Vorthek, Admiral Kethvar, and dozens of other high-ranking officials. All of them watched the humans with curiosity and contempt. These aliens looked so small, so fragile compared to the mighty Vorthak. Captain Chen stopped at the designated spot, 10 meters from the throne. She did not bow. She did not show any sign of submission. Instead, she stood at attention like a soldier reporting to a superior officer. "I am Emperor Thaingok, Supreme Ruler of the Vorthak Empire," the Emperor announced, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. "You have requested an audience to respond to our ultimatum. Speak." Chen looked up at the massive alien on his golden throne. She had studied Vorthak psychology during her journey. They respected strength and despised weakness. Any sign of fear would make negotiations impossible. "Your Majesty," she began, her voice clear and steady, "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Federation. I bring humanity's formal response to your demand for surrender." "And what is this response?" the Emperor asked, expecting the usual pleas for mercy. Chen reached into her uniform and pulled out a small data pad. She activated it, and a holographic display appeared in the air between her and the throne. "We decline." The simple statement sent a ripple of shock through the Imperial court. High Chancellor Vorthek stepped forward, his face dark with anger. "You decline," he shouted. "No species declines the mercy of the Empire. You will surrender or be destroyed." Chen didn't even look at the Chancellor. She kept her eyes fixed on the Emperor. "Your Majesty, perhaps you don't understand what you're threatening. Allow me to show you." The holographic display changed to show a blue and green planet. Earth. The image rotated slowly, showing continents and oceans. "This is our homeworld," Chen said. "Population 12 billion humans." At first glance, it might seem like an easy target. The image zoomed in to show cities and farmland. The Vorthak court members nodded to each other. It looked like any other inhabited world they had conquered. But appearances can be deceiving, Chen continued. The image changed again. Now it showed massive orbital stations surrounding Earth. Weapons platforms the size of small moons. Defensive shields that glowed with deadly energy. Fleet bases holding thousands of warships. Emperor Thaingok leaned forward on his throne. "Impressive defenses. But they will not save you from the full might of the Empire." Chen smiled, but there was no humor in her expression. "Your Majesty, those defenses were built to protect us from ourselves, not from outside threats." She activated another hologram. This one showed a timeline of human history. Wars, conflicts, battles that spanned centuries. "In our most recent global conflict," Chen said calmly, "we lost approximately 2.3 billion people over 6 years. We rebuilt within a decade and emerged stronger than before." The numbers hung in the air like a physical presence. The Vorthak court fell silent. 2.3 billion dead in a single war? Most species had populations smaller than that number. "Your ultimatum threatens the lives of 12 billion humans," Chen continued. "Do you understand what that means, Your Majesty?" Emperor Thaingok felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries, uncertainty. "Explain." Chen clasped her hands behind her back. "We are not a warrior species because we love war, Your Majesty. We are a warrior species because we have never known a time without it. Every advancement in our technology, every aspect of our society, every instinct in our DNA has been forged in the crucible of survival." The holographic display changed to show human weapons. Devices that looked crude compared to Imperial technology. But the energy readings were terrifying. We learned to split the atom to create weapons of mass destruction. We learned to travel between stars to escape the wars we created. We learned to manipulate matter and energy because our enemies forced us to innovate or die. Admiral Kethvar stepped closer to get a better look at the human weapons data. What he saw made his blood freeze. These humans had weapons that could destroy entire planets. Not just the surface, but crack the world itself into pieces. "Every human child learns warfare alongside mathematics," Chen continued. "Every human settlement is designed to withstand siege conditions. Every human ship is built to fight outnumbered and outgunned because that's how we've always fought. Emperor Thaingok raised one of his 6 hands. Enough. You speak of your species as if you are invincible. But you are just one ship. We are an empire of thousands of worlds. Chen's smile grew wider, but her eyes remained cold. Your Majesty, we are not one ship. She activated her data pad again. The holographic display showed a star map of Vorthak space. Hundreds of red dots appeared throughout Imperial territory. While your attention was focused on my ship, 47 human vessels infiltrated your space. They are currently positioned near strategic targets throughout your empire. Each ship carries weapons capable of destroying entire star systems. The throne room erupted in chaos. Imperial officers shouted orders into their communication devices. Admiral Kethvar's face went pale as he received reports from across the Empire. Human ships had appeared near major fleet bases, manufacturing worlds, and supply lines. Impossible, Emperor Thaingok roared. Our defenses would have detected them. Your defenses are designed to stop conventional threats, Chen replied calmly. Humans stopped being conventional a long time ago. She gestured to the star map. Every one of those ships is crewed by volunteers. Men and women who left their families behind knowing they might never return home. They're not there to conquer your worlds, Your Majesty. They're there to make a point. What point? The Emperor demanded. Chen looked directly into his eyes. You threatened our extinction. That is not a declaration of war. It is an invitation to join us in our favorite pastime. The temperature in the throne room seemed to drop. Imperial guards shifted nervously, their hands moving toward their weapons. We have survived ice ages and asteroid impacts, Chen continued. We have endured plagues that killed half our population. We have fought wars that lasted generations. We have been burned, bombed, gassed, irradiated, and hunted to the edge of extinction more times than we can count. She took a step forward, and every guard in the room tensed. And every single time we came back stronger. Not because we're naturally superior, Your Majesty. Because we refuse to give up. Because we adapt. Because we learn from every defeat and turn it into victory. Emperor Thaingok found himself leaning back on his throne. This small human female was more intimidating than armies he had faced. What do you want? He asked quietly. I want you to understand something, Chen replied. Humanity doesn't seek to rule over other species. We find that concept morally repugnant. But we also won't allow other species to rule over us. She gestured to the banners hanging from the ceiling. You have conquered 47 different worlds. You've enslaved billions of sentient beings. You've built your empire on the suffering of others. It is the natural order, High Chancellor Vorthek protested. The strong rule the weak. Chen turned her cold gaze on him. No, Chancellor. That's the lazy order. The strong protecting the weak, that's the natural order. At least it's the human order. She looked back at the Emperor. Your Majesty, you have 2 choices. You can continue your expansion and discover why humans have never lost a war when our survival was at stake, or you can begin the process of giving your conquered species the choice to be free. And if we refuse? Emperor Thaingok asked. Captain Chen reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. She held it up so everyone could see. Then you'll learn why the phrase human rights strikes fear into the hearts of tyrants across the galaxy. The device beeped softly, and Chen smiled one last time. The demonstration begins now. The device in Captain Chen's hand beeped 3 times. Emperor Thaingok stared at it, not understanding what it meant. Around the throne room, Imperial guards raised their weapons, pointing them at the human diplomatic team. Seize them, the Emperor commanded. Before the guards could move, every alarm in the palace began screaming. Emergency lights flashed red across the throne room. High Chancellor Vorthek pressed his hand to his ear. Listening to urgent reports from Imperial Command, my lord, he said, his voice shaking. Something is happening in orbit. Through the massive windows of the throne room, they could see space around Zephyria Prime. What had been empty void moments before now blazed with new lights. Ships were appearing out of nowhere, materializing like ghosts becoming solid. Admiral Kethvar ran to the nearest communication panel. Command, report. What's happening up there? The voice that answered was filled with panic. Admiral, we have multiple contacts appearing throughout the system. 40, 50, 60 ships and counting. They're using some kind of cloaking technology we've never seen before. Chen stood calmly in the center of the chaos. Her team formed up behind her. Your Majesty, I'd like you to meet the rest of my fleet. The main display screen in the throne room activated, showing a view of orbital space. Dozens of human warships hung in the void like dark angels of death. Each one was different in design, but all shared the same brutal efficiency of construction. They looked like they were built to take punishment and dish it out in return. How many? Emperor Thaingok whispered. 63 vessels, Chen replied. Each one carrying enough firepower to level a continent. Each one crewed by humans who volunteered for a mission they knew might be suicide. Admiral Kethvar was shouting orders into his communicator. All ships, battle stations. Prepare to engage enemy fleet. The Imperial Navy responded with impressive speed. Within minutes, hundreds of Vorthak warships were moving to intercept the human vessels. The pride of the Empire, ships that had conquered countless worlds, formed battle lines around their capital planet. Emperor Thaingok watched the deployment with growing confidence. You are outnumbered 10-1, human. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Chen looked at the tactical display showing the two fleets. Your Majesty, you still don't understand what you're facing. The first battle began near the outer edge of the system. 6 Imperial heavy cruisers engaged 3 human destroyers. The Vorthak ships opened fire with massive energy beams that could cut through asteroid belts. The human ships disappeared in blinding flashes of light. For a moment, the Imperial bridge crew cheered. Then the light faded and the human ships were still there. Impossible. Admiral Kethvar stared at his instruments. Direct hits with maximum power. How are they still operational? On the display screen, they could see the human destroyers. Their hulls glowed red-hot from the energy impacts, but they were intact. Steam and debris vented from damaged sections, but the ships continued to advance. Our defensive technology is based on different principles than yours, Chen explained calmly. Your weapons are very powerful, but power alone isn't everything. The human ships returned fire. Instead of energy beams, they launched what looked like simple metal projectiles. The Imperial officers laughed at the primitive weapons. The laughter stopped when the projectiles tore through the Imperial ships like they were made of paper. The heavy cruisers, vessels designed to withstand planet-killing weapons, crumpled and exploded under the impact of human kinetic rounds. What kind of projectiles are those? High Chancellor Vorthek demanded. Depleted uranium cores accelerated to 15% of light speed, Chen replied. We learned long ago that sometimes the old ways work best. The battle expanded across the system. More Imperial ships engaged the human fleet, and the results were always the same. The humans absorbed damage that should have destroyed them, then responded with weapons that ignored Imperial defenses. But what truly shocked the Vorthak was how the humans fought. Their ships didn't try to avoid damage. Instead, they deliberately took hits to get closer to their targets. When Imperial vessels tried to retreat, human ships pursued them with relentless determination. They fight like they expect to die, Admiral Kethvar observed with horror. Because we do, Chen said simply. Every human ship is designed to keep fighting even when most of its crew is dead. Every human soldier is trained to complete the mission regardless of personal cost. On the display, a human cruiser rammed an Imperial battleship twice its size. Both ships exploded in a ball of nuclear fire, but the human captain had waited until his target was close to 3 other Imperial vessels. The explosion crippled all of them. Emperor Thaingok watched his proud fleet being systematically destroyed by ships that seemed to welcome death. This is madness. Your people are throwing their lives away. No, Your Majesty. We're investing them. Chen activated her datapad again. The display showed a detailed analysis of the battle. In the past 20 minutes, you've lost 47 ships. We've lost 8. Your vessels are destroyed or disabled. Ours are damaged but still fighting. The mathematical outcome is inevitable. The Emperor looked at the numbers and felt despair creeping into his heart. How could this be happening? The Empire had never faced serious resistance before. Admiral, Chen called out to Kethvar, would you like to see what we consider a serious weapon? Before he could answer, the human flagship Retribution moved into position above one of Zephyria Prime's moons. The ship's hull began to glow with strange energy patterns. That's a dimensional fracture cannon, Chen explained. It tears holes in the fabric of space itself. We built it because conventional weapons weren't destructive enough for our taste. The Retribution fired. A beam of twisted space-time lanced out from the ship and struck the moon. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality seemed to fold in on itself around the impact point. The moon didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a solid ball of rock and ice. The next moment there was empty space where it had been. The throne room fell completely silent. Even the alarm stopped wailing. Everyone stared at the empty space where a celestial body had existed seconds before. That moon was the size of a small planet, High Chancellor Vorthek whispered. Yes, Chen agreed, and every human ship carries similar weapons. We don't believe in proportional response, Your Majesty. When we fight to win. Emperor Thaingok slumped back on his throne. His mighty empire, unconquerable for 3,000 years, was being destroyed by creatures that treated death as a tactical option. What do you want from us? He asked quietly. Chen looked around the throne room at the banners of conquered species hanging from the ceiling. I want you to understand something, Your Majesty. Humanity doesn't build empires. We break them. She gestured to the tactical display where the remnants of the Imperial fleet were retreating in confusion. Every ship you see out there carries volunteer crews, men and women who left behind families and comfortable lives because they heard about your empire. They heard about species forced into slavery, worlds stripped of resources, children taken from their parents. Her voice grew colder, and they decided that was unacceptable. The Emperor looked at this small human female and realized she was the most dangerous being he had ever encountered. Not because of her weapons or her ships, but because of what she represented. An entire species that refused to tolerate injustice. You see, Your Majesty, Chen continued, we didn't come here to conquer you. We came to free everyone else from you. She activated her communicator. Her voice echoed across all frequencies in the system. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Federation. To all species currently under Imperial rule, you now have a choice. You can choose freedom, independence, and the right to determine your own destiny. Humanity offers alliance to those who want it, support to those who need it, and protection to those who ask for it. The Emperor watched helplessly as his empire began to crumble around him. Across the galaxy, the subjugated species were hearing Chen's message. They were learning that the impossible had happened. Someone had challenged the Empire and won. The age of conquest is over, Chen announced. The age of choice has begun. 3 days after the demonstration above Zephyria Prime, Emperor Thaingok sat alone in his private chambers. The golden throne room felt empty now, its grandeur meaningless. Through his window he could see the human fleet still hanging in orbit like a constant reminder of his empire's new reality. Reports flooded in from across Imperial space. On 18 different worlds, subjugated species had declared independence. Some were forming their own governments. Others were requesting protection from the humans. A few had simply vanished, using hidden technology to disappear into unexplored space. Admiral Kethvar entered the chamber without ceremony. The old protocol seemed pointless now. Your Majesty, he said quietly, we need to talk. More bad news? The Emperor asked. I'm afraid so. Intelligence reports that human ships are appearing throughout our territory. Not attacking, just present. They're offering transportation off-world to any species that wants to leave. Thaingok closed his eyes. How many are accepting? Most of them, my lord. The species we conquered are discovering they have choices they never knew existed. The Emperor stood and walked to his window. In the distance, he could see one of the human ships. It looked small and harmless, but he now knew better. What I don't understand, he said slowly, is why they haven't destroyed us completely. They have the power. Kethvar had been wondering the same thing. I believe it's because they meant what they said. They don't want to rule us. They want to break our power to rule others. A soft chime indicated someone requesting entry. The Emperor granted permission and Captain Chen walked into the chamber. She was alone, apparently trusting that the ruler of a galaxy-spanning empire wouldn't try to harm her. Your Majesty, she said with a slight nod. Admiral. Captain Chen, the Emperor replied. I assume you've come to discuss surrender terms. Chen shook her head. No, Your Majesty. I've come to discuss your future. She moved to stand beside the window, looking out at the stars. My government has been studying your empire for the past several months. We've learned some interesting things, such as the Vorthak species wasn't always conquerors. Your earliest historical records show a peaceful civilization focused on art and philosophy. You only became warriors after your homeworld was attacked by another empire 3,000 years ago. Emperor Thaingok stared at her in surprise. How could you possibly know that? Those records are classified at the highest levels. Because we recognize the pattern, Chen replied. It's one we've seen before. On our own world, she turned to face him. Humans weren't always warriors either, Your Majesty. We became fighters because we had to. The difference is we remembered why we were fighting. You forgot? Admiral Kethvar stepped forward. What do you mean? You started fighting to protect your people from oppression. Somewhere along the way, you became the oppressors. You let the means replace the ends. Chen activated a small holographic projector. It showed images of Vorthak art and literature from their early civilization. Beautiful, peaceful works that spoke of harmony and understanding. This is who you used to be, she said. This is who you could be again. Emperor Thaingok looked at the images of his people's past. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that empires built on conquest always fall eventually, but civilizations built on cooperation can last forever. She changed the holographic display to show a star map. Instead of showing Imperial territory, it showed something else. Trade routes, communication networks, and mutual defense agreements between dozens of different species. This is what we're offering to build, not an empire with one species ruling over others, but an alliance where every species has an equal voice. And what place would the Vorthak have in this alliance? The Emperor asked. Whatever place you choose, Chen replied. You could be partners, allies, even leaders if you earn that position through service rather than conquest. Admiral Kethvar studied the star map carefully. What about our military? Our ships? Our weapons? Keep them, Chen said simply. But use them to protect the innocent instead of oppressing them. Use them to defend the alliance against threats from outside our space. Outside threats? The Emperor asked. Chen's expression grew serious. Your Majesty, the galaxy is a big place. There are things out there that make your empire look like children playing with toys. When those threats come, we'll need every ship, every warrior, every strategic mind we can find. She gestured to the holographic display. Humanity has been monitoring deep space communications for decades. We've detected signals from the galactic core that suggest massive civilizations far more advanced than anything in our local region. Sooner or later, they'll expand outward. And when that happens? Kethvar asked. When that happens, we'll need to stand together or fall separately. Emperor Thaingok considered her words carefully. The idea of giving up his empire was painful, but the alternative was watching it crumble piece by piece as more species chose freedom over servitude. What guarantees do we have? He asked. How do we know humanity won't simply replace the Vorthak Empire with a human one? Chen smiled, and for the first time there was warmth in her expression. Because, Your Majesty, we've tried the Empire route before. It didn't work out well for us. She activated another holographic display, showing Earth's history of colonial empires and their eventual collapse. Every human empire in our history eventually fell because people won't stay conquered forever. We learned that lesson the hard way. That's why we're offering partnership instead of conquest. But surely humanity has some advantage in this alliance, Admiral Kethvar pointed out. Some benefit for taking these risks. Of course we do, Chen admitted. We get allies instead of enemies. We get trade partners instead of subjects. We get friends instead of slaves. She looked directly at the Emperor. And we get to sleep at night knowing we're not the bad guys. The room fell silent as the two Vorthak considered her words. Finally, Emperor Thaingok spoke. What would you need from us to make this alliance work? 3 things, Chen replied immediately. First, immediate freedom for all subjugated species. No conditions, no gradual transitions. They choose their own path starting now. Second, reparations. The species you conquered deserve compensation for the damage you've done. Resources, technology, whatever they need to rebuild. And third, the Emperor asked, truth. Full disclosure of everything the Empire has done. Every atrocity, every injustice, every crime. Recorded and broadcast so that future generations remember the cost of unchecked power. Emperor Thaingok winced. The third requirement would be the most painful. It meant admitting to billions of beings that everything the Empire stood for was wrong. And if we agree to these terms, he asked, then the Vorthak species gets a chance to redeem itself. You get to become heroes instead of villains. You get to build something that will last forever instead of watching your empire crumble. Admiral Kethvar stepped closer to Chen. What about our military traditions? Our warrior culture? Keep them, she replied. Channel them into something noble. Become the guardians of peace instead of the bringers of war. She gestured toward the window where the stars shone in the darkness. The galaxy is full of wonders, Your Majesty. Species we haven't met yet. Worlds we haven't explored. Threats we haven't faced. There's plenty of room for warriors in a peaceful galaxy. Emperor Thaingok walked to his throne and sat down heavily. The weight of 3,000 years of Imperial history pressed down on him. But for the first time in centuries, he also felt something else. Hope. Very well, Captain Chen. The Vorthak Empire accepts your terms. Chen nodded respectfully. Thank you, Your Majesty. History will remember this moment as the day when one of the galaxy's greatest empires chose to become something even greater. As she prepared to leave, the Emperor called out to her. Captain, may I ask you something? Of course. When your species encountered its first galactic empire, what did you do? Chen paused at the doorway. We destroyed it completely, Your Majesty. Every ship, every station, every trace of their civilization. Why? Because they made the mistake of trying to conquer Earth. You made the wiser choice of listening to reason. After she left, Emperor Thaingok and Admiral Kethvar sat in silence for a long time. Finally, the Admiral spoke. My lord, do you think we've made the right choice? The Emperor looked out at the human ships in orbit. Ships that could have destroyed his empire but chose instead to transform it. I think, old friend, that we've just met the future, and the future doesn't belong to conquerors anymore. In the weeks that followed, the transformation began. Species across the former Imperial space declared independence and began building new societies. The Vorthak military was reorganized into a peacekeeping force. Trade agreements replaced tribute demands. And in deep space, human listening posts detected new signals from the galactic core. Stronger signals. Closer signals. The age of small competing empires was ending. The age of galactic cooperation was beginning. And just in time,